Hello, everybody out there in YouTube land. It's your t-shirted historian. And hopefully I don't cough a whole bunch and get all gargly on stream. I'm kind of in the residuals phase of getting over this upper respiratory infection. I don't think it turned into bronchitis, and I'm actually feeling better today than I have in several days. So I think I'm on the mend. Other people in my house are hacking their head off, but I'm okay so far. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed Turkey Week. If you celebrate Turkey Week, if you live in a country that doesn't celebrate Turkey Week, then I hope you had a good week with, not so many stabbings and other things in your country. That's the only news I ever hear from those other countries is like, oh, someone just got stabbed. I mean, it happens in our country too, but it's a mess. I hate it. And I'm not really sure what the solution is, but that's okay. I'm not a political channel. I'm not here to discuss my political beliefs or anything like that. So I don't have to provide a solution. Thankfully, that is left up to other people in our government who actually supposedly can do something about it. Maybe, possibly. I doubt it. But anyway. So I've been playing Diablo 4 this week. Well, I should be honest. I've been playing Diablo 4 for the last day and a half, like yesterday and today. And it's a weird time to get back into it because it's like, apparently they dropped a new add-on DLC to it and they're selling it really super duper cheap because of Black Friday. So I kind of splurged and said, okay, you know what? I can pay $20 and pick that up and try to get back into Diablo 4. Because I don't know, initially I didn't really feel all that great about it. I didn't like the fact that everything scaled up with your levels. But I started doing the meta thing and started researching what are the best builds for the current version. And that kind of opened up a whole box of interesting things because all of a sudden I was interested in starting all over and trying out all these new builds. Now, I mean, I haven't gotten really super duper far into any of these builds. I mean, my highest levels right now are a couple of 50s. And I have no idea what the level cap is on the game, if there is one. But I can say that, man, Necromancer at level 50 is just disgusting. I'm running a Reaper minion build. And, since everything scales, I went ahead and decided to go ahead and go through the game, from start to finish. And got to the Act 1 boss. And I literally melted him while he was still talking. I mean, seriously, between the curses I was dropping on him, my skeletal mages and my skeletons and my big old golem beating the crap out of him. He didn't even get to finish his monologue before his health bar went zoop and went away. And I was like, Jesus Christ, this is unbelievable. So I may need to turn the difficulty up a little bit. But, Jesus, man, these builds that these people come up with are just insane. I mean, I've tried a lot of different things. Whirlwind Barbarian. Like I said, Reaper Minion Necromancer. Hydra Mage. Hydra Mage is fun. Oh my God. Just, drop hydras on people and watch them, kind of dissolve. That's fun. But honestly, my favorite build right now, the one I'm really having the most fun with, is Dance of Knives Rogue. Because literally, I'm the laziest ARPG player you will ever meet. It's like I don't want to have to run a bunch of cooldowns. I don't want to have to keep hitting buttons. I don't want to have to do anything but hold down one single button and beat the snot out of something. Because my old Diablo 3 barbarian had the rotating hammers thing. So pretty much it was just kind of like, okay, turn on hammers and run through the dungeon and beat everything to death with it. That works. So this Dance of Knives rogue works pretty much the same way because I just hold down the mouse key and she just melts people with, by whirling dervishing through them with her knives and, throwing knives at everybody else. And I'm just like, man, this is super fun. But it got me thinking. See, Diablo is considered an ARPG, which I forget what ARPG means. I'm sure Grim is probably going to be furiously looking it up now. But the whole line in there is RPG, role-playing game. And all of Diablo games profess to be role-playing games. And I guess in a way they kind of are. Because you get to make choices, some of which are kind of meaningful, but not really. I mean, I don't know how to describe it. I mean, it's a little bit of an RPG on rails, but it's not as bad as some other things like, Vampire the Masquerade, Bloodlines 2. That's not a role-playing game at all, guys. That is a walking simulator with sections of combat separating each room. That is not a real game. That's not a real role-playing game at all. But anyway. Oh, is action RPG? Action RPG, adventure RPG. Okay. Driving with Dragons, get your butt in here. All right, so let me get my guys in here because there's something that I started thinking about. As we're playing Diablo, I started thinking, is this really the experience that players really want these days? And how are we getting it out of our TTRPGs? Because essentially, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons is still super duper popular, as is, 5th edition for all the latecomers, I guess. And some people are still playing 3rd edition. I don't know anybody who's playing 4th edition, but I'm sure those people are out there. And some other people are even playing old school, 3-book, white box stuff. And I started thinking, it's like, this game really does not translate to Diablo at all. It's turn-based, it's slow, it's plotting. When you get into combat, it's tactical. And maybe that's because of its wargaming roots that it is so tactical. It is not really at all like Diablo, which kind of more or less emphasizes positioning, setting up your cooldowns, and your gear being such a thing. I mean, it's like, it's so ridiculous. If you were playing a D&D game where you were switching out gear as often as you do in Diablo, the economy of that town of Tristram in the first game would have been insane, as is all the other towns that are in Diablo 4 and every Diablo game. I mean, their economies are just ridiculous. Here's my legendary, staff of the fungi-eating monster, It's a legendary item. Here, let me just sell it to you, and, you give me the money for it, and I'll buy some crap. It's like, no, I don't think so. But anyway, let me get my panel in here. We got Grimster.
Hello.
Chernowski.
Hello.
And we've got the guard, bro!
It's true.
Oh my God.
I'm finally here. Yeah.
I'm so glad you're here, dude.
I told myself I'm not going out on Saturday. I'm going to show up to the fucking thing. I'm always good off doing something or working. I was like, you know what? Today, I want to show up for a fucking stream.
Well, I'm so glad, dude. This is a fun one to show up for. So, all right. I'm assuming everybody here has played Diablo at least once. One of the 4.
Diablo.
Yeah. I have an interesting take on Diablo. It's just the fact that I just didn't like it at all. It's
Really?
It's not my
No, it's-
play style. I didn't really jive with it. Like I loved the old Dungeon Keeper games. Didn't like Diablo.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know. It just didn't ring with me. I don't know if it was like maybe like the camera position or like how the game played, but it didn't really feel very RPG-y to me.
Yeah.
Like to me, Gauntlet feels more like an ARPG than Diablo. Though. That's just my opinion, though.
Well, they're essentially the same game, except that you're not really changing out your weapons.
Yeah, it's I don't know. Like for me, I like there to be like a smaller scale of slaughter. Makes any sense? Because more or less, if I'm wrong, correct me. But like it's been a long time since I played it. But basically, you're one dude taking on like an entire dungeon, right? It's one dude. You kind of make your way through this dungeon. You get gear and stuff, right? That's the main play cycle of it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think,
Well, the funny thing is, in my opinion, it's like Diablo does not translate very well to TTRPGs. In fact, they did make a Diablo adventure for second edition AD&D, I believe.
That was a whole game, I think.
Was it a whole game? Yeah. Well, it still didn't translate very well because, yes, it has a leveling system just like you do in Diablo, but you don't, the tactical combat slowdown, turn base of D&D does not lend itself very well to the fast-paced hack and slash, destroy it,
To me, it always seemed like Diablo was like a fantasy-based. Well, fuck me, the name. Crap, I had a brain fart. The Doomslayer, that game series, whose name
Doom?
is. Thank you, Doom. Yeah, I couldn't think of Doom, but it's like a fantasy Doom. You're one guy butchering through a bunch of fucking dungeon-themed monsters, but like it's not really. I expected more when I played it. I expected more of like a D&D-esque kind of thing because it kind of sort of fits the genre. You're a dude burning through a dungeon, but like for the most part, except for like solo adventure books, D&D is a or any kind of TTRPG is a group adventure. Well,
and Diablo is multiplayer. It has been from the very first one.
Yeah, but that doesn't have that same kind of feel to it. Like I said before, Gauntlet feels more like a D&D adventure than Diablo ever did. It might be a theme thing for all I know. It might be just a vibe of what it is. But like I don't know, I just didn't really gel well with Diablo. It's way too fast paced, and you're just burning through things, and you're constantly relying on gear. And as a whole, like basically it's basically a gear chase, and it's basically a ladder game where you try and find the thing you need and progress through. But it isn't my kind of thing anyway. It's why I quit playing World of Warcraft into after the Lich King, because you're constantly on that fucking treadmill. I mean, it's not wrong, but like a lot of games nowadays, or at least video games are a treadmill. They're a gear treadmill. You have to go and try and find a thing that gets you up, one more SR or one more thing. So you can go to the next. It's a constant treadmill where the game becomes this. This chase of items, and it's not really like comparing WoW Classic to current WoW, where you don't earn anything, you're constantly burning through gear. It's all about in-game stuff, and I will say one thing though: at least Diablo didn't feel like you're trying to chase in-game; you're just chasing gear the entire time. But you mentioned like before in your opening remarks that a lot of games are kind of lacking, and I think that's what you want to talk about, right? The modern games and all that.
Well, I mean, that's just kind of what I'm thinking. It's like, I think, and I think Daniel would probably agree with me on this. 3.0 was where we saw a really big change in the D&D system when they started dropping all of the perks and stuff. Or I forget what you call them now.
Feats.
Yes, all the feats. And
you for that one t-shirt.
Yeah. Sorry. Hey. I'm sorry. I'm only on my second cup of coffee. Damn it.
But
yes, not those kind of feats. I love those kind of feats. But yeah,
streamlining of games.
Yes, but when they brought feats out, that altered the way your classes played And a lot of it does seem to be kind of Diablo inspired in some ways. Would you agree or disagree?
I would disagree.
You would?
Yeah, I would. I would disagree.
It's here or there for me. I mean, feats in general. I mean, think about feats and how there's not any quality to the feats. Like how many feats are there, right? And how many are actually
I don't know.
used? Like, there's actually as probably where your game becomes old, where everything is completely what's the term for when you like basically you learn the game so well, everything is
Meta.
put to yeah, it's so metamized that all these feats are just rendered redundant.
No, that's true. That actually, more than once, I have seen, Treant Monk. I used to literally worship that dude because he would bring out these really great guides to Pathfinder. First edition, back when Pathfinder was good, and he would sit down and he would create tier lists of what the best feats are and how to use them, and an RPG bot picked up that torch and went even further with it by having entire builds. And that's the thing, that's
way worse in Pathfinder than it ever was in 3.5.
Well, I get that.
I'll
I
forever
get that.
stand on that Pathfinder was taking all the worst parts of 3.5 and making them the entire game.
Right, I get that, but
not do it right.
But see, as the games go, because Diablo 2 started bringing out the feat trees, and people actually started, building their classes. They started building. 3 made it worse. 4 is really bad about building, about builds, about what to pick up and all that. And I started thinking 3.0 to present day is, well, maybe a little bit less in 5th. But 3.0 and Pathfinder First Edition are definitely all about meta builds and picking the right feats and picking the right class and picking the right this, that, and the other in order to maximize your potential, which is the same thing that people do in Diablo. And I'm thinking,
user error though.
What's that, Graham?
Isn't that user error?
Well, I'm not saying it's user error, but I mean it's just
it's more design error. It's more design error because you made this distinct pathway of how people can play to maximize what they do. And in that regard, you're more or less destroying the game part of any game, whether it's World of Warcraft or D&D or Pathfinder, when you don't have these constant snap updates and feedback updates. I mean, I'm sure you guys know, what was the date between a Pathfinder release and a Pathfinder FAQ or secondary release? It's years, isn't it?
I have no idea. What do you mean?
Like, for one thing I've noticed is that a lot of these game companies, and I heard someone talking, I'm sorry, if I say it now, forget, and I'm look retarded on stream, but like, a lot of these companies, they get this feedback, right? But they don't act on it fast enough. There's all these committees they got to go through and yada, yada, yada. So there are these issues with the game where it's metamized. It's been streamlined to the point of where the game has become homogenous in how things are built. And instead of going in and rapidly fixing those things and making some other feats or traits or perks, we want to call them more definitive, or put a little sparkle powder on them, it languishes in this development hell for months and months or years and years until the next edition, when either nothing changes or everything stays the same, or they're changed slightly, but it's not fast enough to break up the meta. Go ahead.
Okay, so part of what happened though is with 3.0 we got the open gaming license, and everywhere where the developer world, WotC was failing, there was secondary markets that were popping up, like even Grimm and other people who were dropping all kinds of new game edition stuff, or brand new settings, new creatures, new characters, new feats, all these things.
Yeah, dog and bird.
Yeah, and that would. I'm sorry, I got some crazy stuff going on over here. Y'all, Grim, pick up for a little bit here, man. I gotta go check out what's going on.
Okay. So when I was talking about user error, what I mean is, so when you create a game with a whole bunch of different options for people, what they do with it is then up to them. For a lot of people, 3rd edition D&D, I guess Pathfinder, after having the proper skill system and the feats and the prestige classes and all that. For a lot of people, that was just, oh, I can make a character that actually fits the background and so on that I have in my head. Not necessarily for optimization, but to go deeper into making meaningful character choices rather than just what class you're going to play or whatever else. So what I mean by user error is that it was never really meant to be used to make optimized builds, and the people who are doing that are having fun in their own way, of course, but that's not really what was intended. So it's user error in that they're doing something with it which is possible, but which is not necessarily encouraged or intended. Yeah,
it's meant to be modular. This has been one of my big stances on 3.5 from the very beginning. The game is designed to be modular. It's written all over the place. Otherwise, the core rule books wouldn't be filled with variants and advice on when you should possibly change this or use this variant or that variant, when you should adjust this. It's filled with advice about what you should allow if you're trying to play this style, or if you want to make a world that feels like this, you should use these things. And it's the same thing with the supplements. And then you go back and you look at these, I usually refer to them as mathematical exercises or autistic exercises if I'm derisive. And you see a thing like Pun. All right.
Yes.
And there's a whole thread where the creator of Pun has got this thing and he's doing an FAQ, and it's stuff like my GM won't allow, or my DM won't allow me to do this. And he's like, your DM should not allow you to do this. This is not a character that makes sense in any world or should exist. It's merely an artifact in the math of using 15 different supplements that should not
Why can't
be
that be
used.
a coffee lock? I don't get it. It's stupid. Yeah.
I mean, it's true. It's like, and that's one of the problems with having a whole lot of creators out there who are just making things for your game, and that is that it can unbalance your game pretty insanely if you allow unlimited numbers of supplements in, which was the mistake that we made when we played 3.0, because when 3.0 came out in 2000, I was working at a game store, and 3.0 was the hottest shit that was selling. And of course, all of the supplements that dropped along with it, we were getting new supplements in all the time. And so, of course, we wanted to play test all of it. So the GM just had a, use whatever you want rule. And buddy, we came up with some builds that were just insanely broken because, the GM would just let us, mix, match, and combine and create whatever we wanted to based on classes, feats, races, and everything else that were in third-party supplements that were okay to work if you didn't use anything else. But when you started combining and mixing and matching things, stuff got crazy.
Now, what kind of failure is that, though? Is that a third-party failure, a lack of theme failure? Like, what causes that divot?
A game master.
In terms of
That's a game master.
That's a game master failure. A game master not running his game and curating his content. That's what kind of failure it is. It's a failure to say no when somebody walks up with the Eberron Warforged of Faroon Dragonlance build that can, we got Warforged Raistlin with all kinds of additional Faroon abilities. No.
Now that's not the only thing that's immune to that. If you guys remember, I played Fabula Ultima with Grim, and at one point I ran a character that well, actually, I ran several characters, but my whole thing when I was playing Fabula Ultima with Grim was trying to come up with interesting and fun builds to play in Fabula Ultima, and I even ended up creating a character that basically self-destructed but took out the boss, and that was by design. By the way, Grim, what did you think of that particular move?
Carl's mustache when he says that.
Yeah.
We were all learning the system. It's fine. Checking the bounds.
Yeah. So it didn't really bother you?
Nah. I just adapt.
Yeah. That's nice.
It also helps that wasn't exactly like supposed to be an ongoing, permanent sort of campaign where we were supposed to play this thing potentially the next 3 years, and you just built a character whose whole job is to suicide.
Well, it wasn't necessarily to suicide. It's just the character gets more powerful the more damaged and messed up that they get, to the point where, yeah, they come back and they just totally kaiju other stuff. The only drawback being that we had a boss that was not dying, and it didn't matter how much shit we were pouring into her. So I finally just said, let's drop the Hiroshima on her.
The nuclear option, yeah.
Yeah, and it worked, because it was built into the story. Yes, the character was permanently lost, but that's the way it was written into the rules. So it's not like I didn't pay for it.
See, what I'm wondering is, of course, this is a pretty touchy subject. I brought up a few times. Some people like, is it? I think it's a failure of theme, especially in modern day D&D. I cannot make heads or tails of modern day D&D's theme. You have motorcycles and flapper dancers, but also set in like this dungeon-esque area. Like at what point does the game become too bloated for its own good, or too old for its own good? Like, I went to Barnes and Nobles because I wasn't gonna buy it, but I read through the newest edition of the D&D manual, D&D 5e/5 Forever, whatever you want to call it, and I didn't understand the theme of it. Like going through that college expansion book they had and the new D&D book, and kind of looking at the old books, it seems like D&D kind of lost a plot, literally. Like, what the hell's going on in this setting? There's how many races? I think me and James from Nick Beardy went through and kind of like 119 races on a single planet. Makes a lot of sense. Thank you. It requires multi-dimensional hootenanny that Marvel does. Like, at what point does the game become too fat and bloated for its own good that eventually dies? Like, you're trying to balance out. That would be an absolute headache, because you got feats that are still legal and still pertinent, that are from a book that's 25 years old at the current time, and are still being used and not being adapted to the newer gaming. Like, gamers from when D&D first came out, one D&D, one Ed, to now, it's a vastly different kind of farm out there in terms of what's going on. I went and did a few IRL games at the local game store here in Edmond, and it was just the weirdest shit I've ever been to in my life. Like, I was confused of what we were doing. The dungeon was set in a fucking grocery store, but we're all like normal D&D characters, and the plot made no like. I went from game to game to game to game for these couple Fridays and Saturdays, trying to figure out what was going on. And kind of, yeah, we Franner said that was one where we had to go and rescue a gay preacher because he's being hunted by pointy white hat people. I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, we are in. I'm wondering, because, well, you called them, the KKK in the game. I'm thinking, this is a fantasy world set in a whole other planet. How the hell is a Ku Klux Klan here in this fucking setting? It just didn't make any sense. It took me out of the game, and it's like a modern day gamer problem. Is it a modern game problem? Like, where's the issue happening here, where these games are losing their identity and it's causing these gameplay issue styles? Like, is it because the games needs to be refreshed? They got to do a reboot on a setting? Like, I'm just trying to figure out where the kink in the chain is. Like, I'm trying to.
Well, what I think the problem is that it's an issue of it being a corporate entity, of this being part of something that is a publicly traded company, because they got to because they're not putting out products because they think it's going to be a good idea, it's going to be a good sell. They're putting out things because, well, the numbers have to always go up. So we got to make sure we put out a book just before the next quarterly earnings report, which is, I think, probably why you look at the state Magic is in. Everything is all being sent up to appease the shareholders. It's not about appeasing the customers, and that's the fundamental problem.
Well, actually, I'll tell you the fundamental problem. The fundamental problem is it's 2025. D&D, the supposedly first role-playing game, came out in what, the 70s?
Late 70s.
Was it late 70s, early 70s, something like that? 74.
Actually released.
Okay. Wow. But here's the thing. It's 2025, and we are still following turn-based combat that was established with D&D, which actually probably pulled that idea from Chainmail, because that was a war game where you did take turns going back and forth. So the fact that we're still doing that now is one thing that means that we will never get a Diablo style TTRPG, no matter how much we want it. We have to change the system completely to not be turn-based so much. We have to have like a more reactive system. And
so like Daggerheart, you mean?
It's just generally not realistic in a tabletop game, though. It really isn't, because we're not all populated into an infrastructure that runs itself like, say, in Diablo, where there's a computer algorithm that runs everything at the same time based on input commands, as opposed to one human being trying to narrate and adjudicate what each individual person's doing at a time. Because, you know, the human brain may be an incredibly powerful supercomputer, but you have one processing core for the stuff that's happening at the table. Everything else is taken care of, making sure you stay alive and you recognize what's going on around you.
Right, but I think some of the methodology we could employ to maybe help pull a tabletop into something that is more fast paced is for one thing is like either not utilizing hit points or limiting them so much that literally you can get the one shot kill enemies that you want. And the other thing is utilizing dice pools in order to, you know, quickly react to whatever's happening on the battlefield fast enough that you can, you know, interrupt or play whenever you need to. You know, it's like it's like you see a horde of demons coming in. What do you do? And it's like, well, you got 15 dice. So you start adjudicating, okay, I'm going to start rolling all these different dice and, you know, going after this demon, you know, and you're wiping down hordes before you know it.
To be fair, that is possible, but it sounds laborious.
it probably is kind of laborious, but I would say that there's a lot of dungeon crawlers that actually kind of work out that way. And one of the better examples of this is, oddly enough, it's a game that we played with Grim. And that was the Zombicide game, which it has a really simple core mechanic. Here are your zombies. They're all going to deal all this kind of damage if they're still alive at the end of the thing. You adjudicate how much of it is going to hit which characters when. And other than that, you're spreading out your attacks among all the different undead and stuff. And that kind of worked.
Right. So this kind of approach, I think, is behind the moves in things like Morkborg and in Cypher System and all its spin-offs, where you just have the players roll for everything. So, you know, if you succeed, you hurt the bad guy. If you fail, he hurts you, sort of thing. With varying degrees between that. And also, can't forget Tunnels and Trolls, where you take your entire party's combat value and one person rolls for the whole group. It's not terribly engaging because you're not pulling off cool moves and stuff, but it is quick.
It was also the thing, remember, this is all based off of military war games, and those things had a set speed to it where you would see who would go first, who would take the initiative. So in essence, and people always argue this back and forth, where like, is D&D a war game? Technically, anything that uses a turn-based system and dice is always a war game, because it's all based off of sand tables and working around scenarios. But I'm trying to think of like how you could, like, you could roll initiative every turn, so who goes first, who moves fastest that turn. It's more of a thing of you're back then it's what we had. You didn't really have video games, but now we have, you know, like latest Baldur's Gate thing came out, right? So you have D&D and Baldur's, also you have D&D on table, and you can't do what a computer can do. You can't have constant movement. It's just not possible in a tabletop game. It'd be nice, but
I disagree, because 4th edition basically attempted to emulate it. A lot of people said, "Oh, well, this is, you know, they're trying to be World of Warcraft." And I'm like, yeah, but they're really more trying to be like Diablo, because Diablo has big giant set piece bosses and it has lots and lots of little minions.
Even then, I would not try and compare the two or try and make one fit into the shell of the other. They're two separate kind of animals. Like, I'm sure everyone here has played a turn-based computer game, and it's one of those things where, like, I could be doing this, you know, in real life and have more fun than me sitting at a screen doing it. Like 40K had one for a while, and then everyone's had a turn-based computer game, but it didn't hit the same as a turn-based game with people and dice being rolled. Same thing. Why a video game won't hit the same as a computer game? I think they're two completely separate entities that should be respected in their own particular niches, and trying to make one fit the other is just going to cause a hybrid mixed breed. It's going to have like a bad liver and a kind of a dinky brain, like where it resembles both, but it's not performing at the speed of these two separate animals.
You have to remember what you're good at. You have to remember to play to your strengths. I mean, you look at what old Bruce Lee said: your strength is your weakness, and you have to understand that. And the same thing comes into these games. There are. I've made this comparison before talking about combat systems. If you want a truly realistic combat system, me punching somebody in the face needs about 40 or 50 different opposed and individual rolls to truly simulate all the different factors that go into me throwing a punch.
Right. No one does.
Actually,
because it's boring to sit here and roll 5,000 dice to resolve one action.
Yes, and we have games like that, like Alien from Leading Edge and Phoenix Command and some of these other old games that nobody really plays because, you have to roll 40 million dice. What's that?
Millennium's End.
Millennium's End, yeah. But here's the thing. Here's the thing I'm getting at. What makes Diablo work is that it is a computer game. And where we are heading with our role-playing games is AI driven, and AI can crunch those numbers.
I've seen that.
Yep. AI can crunch those numbers. It can keep track of all those different movements. And all you got to do is input your directions to the AI and tell it it's like, okay, I have 5 dice. I'm going to attack 5 different opponents. So I'm, roll my 5 dice and attack these 5 different opponents and, tell me what the result is, and it'll tell you.
There are some things they're doing solo AI adventures.
Yes, they are. I've done it. I've done it.
I don't know how I feel about it, but it is a thing. And,
I have done it. I have done it, and it is kind of fun. And after a while, the AI can really be interesting and take you to some in-depth stuff. The thing is, right now, AI is really friendly, and even if it has rules and stuff like that, you can bully the AI into doing what you want. Because it's just a simple case of, they say, okay, 15 orcs show up, to attack your party. What do? Then you say, well, okay, I've got this handy-dandy nuclear bomb strapped to my ass. So I'm going to take it out, throw it in the room, and slam the door.
Gotta gaslight the AI.
You can. But that's the thing. You can do that.
Yeah,
it's
agreeable.
I did an experiment back probably 20 years ago that I thought would kind of fall into this same vein. Now, AI can obviously do this faster. And I kept one piece of this. Here's the one piece I kept, and this is a good one for all you D&D guys out there. Have your players roll their initiative way before they need it. Have them roll their initiative at the very beginning of the game and keep that written down. And then when combat comes around, the initiative is already rolled. You jump right into the action. They're right there. We're not stopping and derailing the tension by rolling initiative. Then at the end of combat, roll initiative again for the next time you need initiative. So you're basically pre-rolling your initiative. So that's what I kept. I started with that part. I kept it.
See, I know there's some games where you have a set initiative where your initiative's always set. There's no rolling for it. That's where some games can't get around that.
Yeah, some games do that, but I don't like that because there's always differences. Sometimes the slower guy gets off faster. There's no I want that realism.
Phrasing.
But I think the issue
what I did was I would take my players and I would say, I want your list of everything you're going to do this round. And I have my list of all the things the bad guys are going to do this round because it's all supposed to happen in the same 6 seconds. And I would take it in order of what everybody's doing. So you might get to hear that I'm going to attack these orcs before your turn, but you don't know what the results or anything are. Then I compile all the results and I narrate the scene, and it made everybody more honest, and it made the scene flow faster and the be more into the action because it all happens in the same 6 seconds. It's not stopping for a tactical discussion based on the results of the last guy's turn.
Right. Ironcaster, what were you saying?
I think the ultimate thing when it comes to especially when it comes to these licensed properties, it's not necessarily about wanting to replicate that style of combat. It's wanting to fundamentally get a chance to explore these worlds, getting a chance to go out and fight these demons. It's something that you could realistically do with just about any system. It just you have it ultimately falls upon the game master to run it as such. Like one of the for example, I put in over 6,000 hours into Guild Wars 2. That is my favorite good video game of choice. Like, I will continue to play it till the end of time. There is so much stuff from that game I keep wanting to take from and pluck out of there and bring into games. And
yes,
at the end of the day, it's ultimately like I want to take the stuff I like from this game and bring it with me.
I think my 7 Days to Die has actually eclipsed almost all my other games at this point because I'm now 950 hours into it. I mean, it's just fun, and there's games like that. But
Guild Wars is free. Come play.
It will. So is 7 Days to Die. I've already purchased. But here's the thing: there are other things I've seen people doing, and it started with Kingdom Death Monster, but it's moved into other games as well. And I'm now starting to see it pop up in TTRPGs, and that is people are generating AI cards. And what it is basically, it's a list of cards or instructions and things like that, that how monsters are going to play from round to round, depending on whatever random draw you do. Like, they may decide to, use their most powerful attack, or they may decide to, run, or they may decide to do something else depending on what they can do. And I've actually seen this implemented in game in Grim. What the hell is that Swedish game? Dragon something or other?
Dracone Demona, Dragonbane here.
Dragonbane, yeah. And they do the same thing in that too. The monster has a big list of what it's going to do every single round, and you roll randomly on it. And I'm starting to see.
I think they do the same thing in Forgotten Lands as well.
Yeah, and see, that's a thing I'm starting to see is people are starting to try to find systems to automate how the monsters act already. And that is probably a little bit less of a headache on the GM because he doesn't have to sit there and think tactically about it. If he can just keep rolling, and he could even probably set up a program to do it for him really quickly to figure out what the enemy's going to be doing from moment to moment. The trick is how do we integrate all this to where combat doesn't become turn-based so much as it just becomes more reactive.
So you're speaking of basically the tone. We call it the tone of battle in the military, where what was the current tone of the battle. That's what I'm doing. Like so my second edition, I'm not talking about. I'm not like it's secret fucking my system. There's a thing in the season here called tone of battle, where you decide the tone of the NPCs who are fighting, and more or less every turn you're going to roll a d20 and see what the tone of battle is. Is the current enemy reactive? Are they going to push? Are they feeling battle shocked? Yada yada. That way you do a mass simulation of how an enemy's reacting to the combat or the tone of battle, and there are modifiers to it. But I don't know if that can resemble Diablo really. What do you mean by simulating the tone of battle in video games? We go to TTRPGs. Like, do you have some kind of like feeling in mind when you discuss it, or?
Well, it's just that, like I said, a lot of TTRPGs still have a tactical warfare style because of the turn base. You only have so many actions per turn, or one action per turn, or whatever. So it's basically back and forth. You do this, they do this. You do this, they do this. You do this, they do this. And it doesn't necessarily move very quickly unless you're just doing the same thing each and every round, like at the fighters. Like, what do you do? I swing my sword. What do you do? I swing my sword. What do you do? I swing my sword. So what I'd like to see happen is a way for somebody to build a faster moving system that maybe doesn't necessarily have turns so much as it has reactions. So every single time that somebody does something, everybody gets a reaction. Bad guys, you, everybody else. And it just keeps flowing really, really fast. Combats end sooner because there's a constant pressure you have so many dice you can keep reacting, or you have so many abilities that can keep reacting, etc.
Interleaving actions and reactions
Yes.
tends to actually slow things down a lot.
Really? Because everybody's waiting for their reaction?
And everyone's constantly interrupting with whatever they're doing.
That sounds way more easy
Yeah,
on,
really-
on like a digital basis. That'd be a lot more easy on like digitally. That's the main strength of digital stuff.
I mean, that sounds like turns with more steps and less order.
Okay.
It sounds like. Okay, I'm going to take my turn, and then we're all going to have our reactions, which are just determined randomly who's going to go first by who speaks up.
See,
Listen, guys, listen. Okay. I've already experienced a game that was similar to this.
Yeah, I was
and it's called
get to something.
Yeah, and it's called Torg. And I played it years ago, and we don't play it anymore. But it's back. And that was the thing. Everybody was constantly glued to what the referee was doing or what other people were doing every single moment of the game, because sitting in every player's hand is a stash of cards that they've been drawing for every combat. And the thing is, some of them allow you to instantly interrupt, change, or otherwise alter the flow of the game at just by playing a card. Like
sounds like Malifaux.
Well, yeah, except here's the thing. You can do it on anybody's turn. It's like I remember one time, one of the players was getting hit by a soldier with a gun, and the other player jumped in and played a reverse card, basically. So the guy's gun jammed while he was shooting, even though he would have successfully hit the player.
Sounds like Twisting Fate. Know what I mean?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, but that's the thing. I think that kind of game is more engaging and it's more fun. It doesn't necessarily lend itself to builds, but people are going to min-max no matter what. But I like a game where everybody is constantly involved and needs to do something. And Fabula Ultima had some of that as well, because there were some particular character classes and builds that were allowed to be reactive depending on what it was they were allowed to do. Like some of those characters could interpose themselves and block attacks or whatever. Like my character could do that.
Mr. President, get down. You can dive across
It sounds to me like you're talking about addressing two different problems here. You're talking about not having turns. You're talking about faster combat. You're talking about more of that chaotic feel and stuff like that. But what you're really describing is ways to incentivize players to stay involved in other people's turns and be invested in the gameplay. And there's other ways to do that.
Yeah.
Which is, because, I'm going to pay attention to your turn because I might need to interrupt it.
Yes.
One interesting system I think it was the roadside picnic one. It didn't even have dice. It was just, you had listed skills and items that your character had, and then as things were going along, you would say, I have this particular skill to jam, and they would decide, yeah, okay, or no, not quite.
That's Floyd narrative games, and they're their own creature for sure, where there's no dice rolls. You're simply there's a referee says no, you can't do that, or yes, you can do that. But those, it's gonna sound pretty crazy, but basically it's lawless gameplay where it requires the referee or the DM or CC referee to go, no, you can't do that. Okay, sure, you can do that, but like there's no deciding factor except for the outcome and the income all happens via one guy's ruling. And some players get a bit upset because they feel like they get cheated doing that. It's a way to do it for sure. A lot of people like doing it that way, but there's a lack of what's the word? I'm bad with words today. There's a lack of
verisimilitude, structure.
Yeah.
At the risk of sounding like a bro, what basically are you even playing a game if you don't have any rules? I mean,
you are.
Yeah.
There are rules. Simply the rules are made by one guy. Well, I want to do this. You can't do that. Why not? Because I fucking said so. That's how it works. And a lot of guys are like, well, but why can't I? Because I said so. Shut up. Not your turn.
Oh yeah, no, I'm saying imagine you mix something like that with you had set stats, but listed like what your character was good or bad with, and then the GM went from there. But I'm going with that hypothetical. There are we're trying to explore alternatives. I'm going, that's one alternative you could look into.
Oh, there
and
are
maybe
some alternatives.
figure a mix and match. Or was it the Marvel RPG where it was stones? and basically your character just had a certain amount of
Stars.
energy that they regenerated.
Yeah, it was a diceless one. I did a review of it not long back.
I mean, it's one of those things where players want to have. This is also a big thing in general with anti-TWGs. Why all these systems may not work because it removes agency. You know, and agency is one of those big buzzwords in fucking our sphere. Like, does a player have agency? How do you remove their agency? Dice in general give a player more agency than having a guy saying, no, you can't do that because I think it's a stupid idea or I don't think it'll work. You know, it removes the agency in the idea proliferation from people. You know, like you're saying, there's tons of ways you could do it, but a lot of them require you to remove and say no to people, and people don't like being, kids like being here. No, you can't do that. Why not? Well, because I said so. Like, a lot of guys don't want to spend an hour and a half explaining why their player can't somersault through the air, land in a truck cab, and stab someone. Like, no, that's not going to work. Why not? You got to go through the whole explanation phase, or you should say, no, you can't do that. Goodbye. It's one of those things where it's messy for sure, and like T-shirt says, it's been this way since the first war game was done by the Army and Navy. It is what it is, and it's kind of been the most balanced way between player and the guy who guides the players. I mean, every war game you can think of, Warhammer, Star Wars Legion, they all use these dice and they all use turns. And this may sound like a spicy take or kind of a numbskull take, but it won't change until we have more digitally integrated tools to use in TTRPGs. It's why I personally think all of our games are going to go digital. I see tabletop as we do it now, like at a table, it's going to go away the dodo because it's going to be too old. It's not going to be as up to date. Not going to be have all the tools you can use. Like T-shirt, you can go and use an AI and run your own adventure. The choice of monsters is out of your hands, and the reactions can be done by a computer. And when we do it by computer, whereas digital, you can't blame the GM, the CC, the DM, or the players. It's right in a computer now. And that's the most fair. It's going to sound dumb, but that's the most fair way one can run a game where no person has leeway over what the dice mean, but a third party said so. I saw an article called "The Third Party in the Room." I can't remember what the fuck it was on Twitter somewhere. I didn't save it, but the guy was talking about how he sees that all games are going to soon have an AI piggyback running the games because there's no one to blame at that point. Now,
well, I mean, okay, and this is a thing. I've mentioned this before. I mean, I've told Grim about it. I think I've talked about it on the stream before. But I am noticing with systems like the Zombicide role-playing game, the Dragon role-playing game, and all these other things, that a lot of the enemy reactions or the enemy turns and stuff like that are automated to the point where the GM really doesn't have to do much. I mean, basically all he's got to do is say, okay, zombies take one step forward. And if anybody is based with them, they attack and deliver so much damage. You choose how they deliver all their damage. And the thing is, that takes all the onus off of the GM. So you don't have players screaming about, oh, you killed my character. It's like, no, you chose to take that damage. Yeah, you chose to take that character. Or if it does get killed, it's like, oh, well, you can't blame me. That was a random dice roll. That's just what the dice said that the monster would do.
So if I may pose a question to everyone here before I forget again, I'm going to go in order here. T-shirt, what do you think of the third party in a RPG or TTRPG? Would you believe it's out of spirit or in spirit of the game?
I'm gonna let Grim say first.
Okay.
he added something.
He's holding his action until the next turn.
I will interrupt. No,
I've talked about this before, and I think Driving was just saying about this. If you don't have rules, are you playing a game at all? But part of the reason to have rules is that the rules, if not the games master or referee or whatever, are supposed to be impartial, and they moderate what happens. Did you manage to jump across the lava without falling in and dying? And so that screens the games master from a lot of blowback from players. So I think it's in the same spirit as just having rules to do things. I mean, open rolling, you can blame the die. Hidden rolling, you can fudge the dice and say something else happens to protect or to screw with the players. appealing to the rules is another thing. Of course, the dark side of that is rules lawyers. And so in this instance, maybe we're looking at some sort of logical, impartial AI person, in inverted commas, to appeal to. But I think that takes away some of the art of GMing. But for a lot of people, especially in the way the gaming culture is at the moment, it's probably appealing to blame the machine.
Yeah, well, it is. I mean, and I've brought this up before, and I'll get to your question, but okay, I brought this up many times. I've told this story many times. If you guys are longtime listeners, you've already heard this, but I ran a scenario of I was running a game of Hyperborea. The characters were 3 first levels. They were traveling with a caravan. They got wind of the fact that they were about to be attacked by a group of barbarians who were going to raid the caravan. They saw the barbarians coming at a distance and started doing all their ranged attacks and stuff, and then they stood their ground to fight these guys. And so naturally the party got TPK'd. And the party was furious at me, the GM, despite the fact that I told them way ahead of time there are large numbers. They had plenty of time to run, retreat, find cover, do anything but stand there and go toe-to-toe with all these guys. And they still insisted on doing it, so of course they got their asses kicked. And they blamed me for it, and it killed the game in one night.
They may have saw that in like that, of course, that Diablo mentality where it's 5 of us, there's a horde of dudes, no problem.
Well, exactly, and that's what I'm trying to get at, is the fact that people do have the kind of this Diablo mentality where one guy should be able to take down a horde of whatever at first level, or even second or third. And by 5th or 6th or 7th, they should be able to destroy entire hordes, because God knows my Hydra mage sure as hell can go through just about anything at level 7.
Failing of video game design in the first place. And a lot of it comes from the fact that because video games are limited. All right, you can only have so much of the world programmed. You only got so much memory, so much space, et cetera, et cetera. So if something gets put in video game, it is designed for you to overcome it in one way or another. You either go to it and you find out that you're not high enough level, so as long as you come in high enough level, it can be defeated with brute force, or the game somehow otherwise clues you that you need to go find X item or MacGuffin whatever, or flip whatever switch to overcome the obstacle. The point is that they are all overcomable. There is no Kobayashi Maru in a video game, because then it's just you can't get past this point. Whereas in a tabletop role-playing game, because you have essentially an infinite way around it, there's other ways to deal with it, including failing. There's ways to fail and not be completely out of the situation in the tabletop role-playing game. So I give them the Raiders, and they're thinking video game, because that's where they're programmed from, and they say, well, if the Raiders are there, we should be able to beat them. And if you made them too strong, then you cheated us. As opposed to thinking about it like people, where we're like, there's a bunch of guys with swords over there, and getting poked with swords sucks. So let's not do that.
Well, and that's the problem, is like, I'm not dealing, if I was dealing with, Z, Generation Z or millennials or something like that, I could understand that reaction, because those are generations raised on video games. But the problem is, these are old school players who've been playing and writing supplements in some place since the 70s. And they know old school D&D all the way to the current edition. And they are used to GMs who do just as bad of things. It's like one of their things was like, oh yeah, this guy, when he would run wandering monster encounters, if it said, 77 wolves were going to show up, then 77 wolves showed up and you just dealt with it. And I'm like, you guys come from that kind of background, and you still, knowing that you only had like so many hit points and your one little turn, you still decided to show down with, 6 barbarians.
That's basically the random roll did it to them, not you, the GM. When you put those bad guys there, you intentionally put that there, and there's no dice that made it 77 wolves. You just made it 77 wolves, and they couldn't beat it, so therefore you set them up for failure.
Well, that's
guess.
a player mentality problem of them having someone to blame. You know, like because that to me that's purely a player problem. Those guys were just fucking stupid. I mean, like you can't like go, well, you like, yeah, if I choose to put on 5 Abrams tanks and those guys decide to stare down 4 Sabo rounds a turn, and that's their fucking fault and they're stupid. Like that's
charge.
yeah. That's purely a I want to charge this. This is mostly a Veil Rider problem, but like, hey, a Bradley tank shows up, I want to charge it. You have a spear, like you have like. That's a purely nonsensical player making bad choices problem. And if they choose to blame if they blame the fucking GM for that problem, then they're just looking for someone to take their rage out on. I mean, whether it's DM chosen or dice chosen, like that's a non-issue. I don't like.
We have people who say that the Tomb of Horrors is a bad adventure because their whole party stuck their heads in the fear of annihilation.
Second edition,
right there. They watched the guy before them do it.
I was walking down the road, dice rolls, and ended up getting a Max Age Red Dragon because, well, it was very, very unlikely. It was not impossible, and the dice just decided to say "fuck you."
Now, here's the flip side to this problem. Let's say I realized that they were going to be stupid and stand there and go toe to toe with all these barbarians. If I had suddenly had, Deus Ex Machina dragon or whatever show up and, stomp all the barbarians into a thin red gruel, they would have been equally pissed off at me because the NPC had to show up and save them.
DMPC.
Yeah. Am I right or am I wrong?
You're right.
I think so long as the games master and the game that you're playing set the tone correctly, then stupidity is the fault of the player.
I mean,
if you haven't flagged up that we're playing a horrible grimdark world where I expect one of you to die every session, if you haven't established that, then maybe they have something they should complain about.
Shouldn't it be like a rule saying you can run?
There's some things you can do as a games master. I can't remember what we were playing, but it was a fairly sort of normal fantasy game. May have been Rollmaster, or it might have been one version or other of D&D. But they just cleared out this dungeon, and they were on the way back with all this loot in their wagons and so on. And random encounter, Red Dragon. It could have just killed them all, but what I had it do was mug them. So it swooped down out the sky, sat in front of them, and said, "Right, hand over all the loot and the horses. I'm hungry."
Out of pure curiosity, do people really use random encounter tables like that? Like, oh yeah,
sure.
so there's a fucking green dragon. Like,
yeah,
in,
it can be fun.
A farming village, like,
yeah. When we were in what was it? T-shirt when we were doing your post-apocalyptic game. Remember how
Ashes Without Number?
Yeah, remember how nearly everyone was like down but me, and the only reason we survived is because I happen to have the thing that makes it so. Oh, you can have weapon prepared. I had a shotgun. Like everyone got beat the fuck out, and one person lost the leg. We had to recover from that after.
Yeah,
I've been running an OSC game for the last year or two, and
ooh, that's rough.
I've had the players have been dealing with for about 2 months straight, going back into the same dungeon over and over, and it there's a lot of it kind of built up because I kept rolling giant ants on my list, and it became known as like the Anthill Tower that completely tied up our plot.
Yeah. And see, that kind of shit's fun. That's one of the reasons why random encounter tables are fun, because you never know what you can roll up. And not necessarily every random encounter is a deadly encounter. I mean, like, if you roll up a random encounter with a treant, it's not necessarily going to stomp the party into goo unless they're doing something stupid like, burning down the forest.
This is part of the reason I've never particularly liked class level systems. Because you end up level gating areas. Like, why are all the most powerful creatures at the very bottom of the dungeon, hanging out with each other.
Mhm.
When it would make far more sense for one of them to be like the overboss of an easier level of the dungeon, lording it over the other monsters. I've never liked that about computer games either, when they level gate areas and so on. It's like, I want to wander over there. Why is this guard level 100 when the guard 5 meters away is level 3?
Well, and this goes back to the Diablo thing again, because for the first time we have a Diablo game where it's on a sliding difficulty. So it's like I could be a level 1 character and I could run my ass. Assuming I could get there without dying, and I probably could, because they have horses in Diablo 4. But I could run all the way to like the Act 4 area at level 1 and probably survive and start my adventure right there, instead of starting all the way back in, like the level 1 area that they start you in the first act.
I think,
because it doesn't matter where you are. I mean, if you're level 15, all the other monsters are gated to be level 15. If you're level 20, they're all gated to be level 20 automatically.
Yeah, that kind of takes away a sense of completion or progression. So,
it does.
I found, and Mrs. Grimm plays the current Diablo a lot. I lost interest after 3. But I think what games like Diablo and to an extent Borderlands do as well is it's a constant drip of dopamine hits every time you get a slightly better weapon, or you get a skill point, or whatever they call those over-leveled, like tiny advances in your characters that you get in some games. And that's what keeps people hooked, constantly tweaking and so on, for which you need an incredibly high fidelity system that tabletop is just not suited to, except Fatal, maybe. With its D1000.
I don't know.
You could bring up Fatal. That's...
I've never actually read all the rules for it. So
you should take a little jaunt down that rulebook for a while.
I think I actually have a copy.
Make a video out of it.
Question: was Fatal really a serious game, or was it a parody? I can never determine which, because either can be cringily true.
I mean, they're giving it away for free, aren't they?
I had the creator of the game in my fucking Discord for a while, and they were a hoot. But there's a Fatal 2 out now, I believe. And
I've never heard anything good about Fatal.
Like, he realized that someone was actually able to make characters in it, so he had to fix this.
Yeah. So like, you see some of the tables. There's like birth rate tables. Like it's a whole. It's both parody and actual game, but like that's neither here nor there.
Well, okay, we were talking about the dopamine hit from Diablo. I'm pretty well convinced that rolling the dice is the dopamine hit that you get out of TTRPGs. And the best way I know to describe this is, I had a guy over who was an experienced Pathfinder first edition player and GM. He came over to play in my Pathfinder game, and as he was describing what he was doing, he was constantly rolling the dice for all of his checks automatically. And I'm just kind of like, why do you keep rolling all the checks? You don't need to roll a check unless I tell you to roll a check. But he was constantly rolling dice, and I'm just kind of like, this is this guy's dopamine hit. Apparently, he just likes to roll dice and roll successes and all this stuff. Or else
there's a pause. There's a pause. I'll let everyone else talk first. But I have a theory on that, but that takes a while to get through.
Well, the other thing, part of it too, is I think part of this developed from the skill systems that were developed in 3.0 and Pathfinder First Edition that continue all the way to 5th Edition, because the fact that automates the game to where you are constantly getting dopamine hits every single time you succeed at a skill check, rather than the players using their brains. Because I mean, Daniel will agree with me on this, but if we played the Tomb of Horrors in 5th Edition, people would not necessarily be using their heads. They'd be wanting to skill check their way through the whole goddamn thing.
Yep.
Instead of thinking their way through it. And yeah, the shiny math rocks go click clack. Yeah, the dice goblins, they love it every time they can roll it. And I think that's what it is.
You can have the best of both worlds. there, because having the skill rolls and so on is a good way to model characters who are different to yourself, right? I mean, if you've got a player in your group whose mama drank too much alcohol while he was in the womb, he might want to play he might want to play a very intelligent wizard, but he's thick as mince. So you've got to rely on the rolls for that. But if you combine it with a stunt system and encourage people, like if you describe what you're doing in a good way, in a cool way, I will give you a bonus. Suddenly everyone cares about what they're describing that they're doing again, and that's a good way to do
Well,
things.
and the biggest dopamine hit of all is the crits, and also probably the fumbles, to be honest, because everybody gets, everybody tunes in when somebody fumbles.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, in the way I started trying to adjudicate that at my tables, and did this a long time ago, back when 3.5 was a real thing. I was like, you can't just tell me, like, I don't let players just say, well, I want to make a listen check. So, you need to tell me what you're doing, because I'm going to adjust the DC based on what you're doing. So, like, you want to skill check your way through the Tomb of Horrors, and well, I want to roll to check for traps. Okay, how are you checking for traps? Because if you're just looking at the floor, you're probably not going to find one. But if you're doing something different, then you're going to have an easier time. So you're still going to have to tell me what it is you're doing, and then I'm going to turn around and say, okay, make a this check. And, I ended up with players who started trying to figure out ways to accomplish tasks using the skills they were good at, because they sit there like, all right, so I need to talk my way past this guard. I don't really need to be an asshole, but how can I intimidate him without intimidating? Because my diplomacy sucks. So how can I be intimidating without being a jerk?
And of course, the other thing is like, if you're autistic or you're socially retarded or whatever, and you're just not good at dealing with people, and you're being asked to, sweet talk your way into the Baron's mansion or something like that, you as a player are speaking for your character, but you may not be able to do it, because you'd be like, we'd really like to go inside, please. Instead of, it's so much easier to just math rock it and hope that you succeed and convince the other guy. So,
in a case like that, you say, it's like, well, I want to go up and talk to the guard, and I'm going to try and make him see things from my perspective about why this is really important. It's like, okay, you can go ahead and roll your math rocks for that, because I know that you coming up with the exact verbiage that you need to kind of gaslight this guard or whatever may not be the thing. Or you come up and you say, hey, what I'm going to try and do is, I think I'm going to try and lie to him and tell him that there's a really make it really clear to him that he's going to get in trouble with his boss if he doesn't let us in. Well, maybe that's a harder check, but I don't need them to necessarily act it out for me, because, like you said, they may not know what the hell they're doing. But I at least want an idea of how their character is accomplishing the task, not simply what skill they want to use.
Yeah.
Was that scene in Titan AE where it was an intelligent guard? Who saw that coming?
Yeah. Okay. I promised Guard Bro he could have a little rant, so
Don't
Go
promise
ahead.
me anything. Good Lord. But this is where the main case of video games versus TTRPGs kind of come to a head. And that is the game of chance. Why do people play 40K or any war game? Why do you play TTRPGs? That's why certain video games have been really popular, due to that risk of chance. The latest D&D game, Baldur's Gate, has the D20 in it still. You do a real skill check, and the D20 pops up and rolls. It makes a very satisfying sound on a fail or on a succeed, and that's that dopamine hit, like a T-shirt said. At the same time, you're playing XCOM. It's a combat shooter, but it's turn-based and has chance. It has that percentile on it. And it's why, like, those games will hit differently compared to, like, Call of Duty or Gears of War, whatever it may be, because there's that chance. And that chance is more or less a safer version of gambling. You're gambling every time you take an action in D&D or Veil Riders or Pathfinder. It's always a chance. You're rolling the chance cube to see what turns up. And it's why certain video games have been stuck in our minds forever now. It's why they bridge the gap between people who do play video games or don't, people who do play, tabletop RPGs and don't, because there's that visual stimuli of the video game, having your own character and all the wish wash going on. At the same time, there's that dice, that clickety clackety math rock that kind of sells people in and brings them in. That the exhilaration of, will I fail? Will I succeed? And it's around that chance where I think that's why these mixture games have a niche, because it's very easy. It's why I get bored of games, because I'll go into a game and I'm so mathematically precise in my tactical acumen that I can't fail. It's just it's assured, like what we call them, strategy games, right? Like War Game Dragon or what have you, or like War Thunder. I got bored because I knew exactly how to play the aircraft and I was blitzing through people because there's no chance you can control everything. It's a lack of control that really makes these games special, because you have your character, you can have all the hyped up, streamlined stats you want, but no matter how meta your character is, you can't beat the chance cube. Nope. And it's what makes these games really special. It's what makes people kind of have that feeling in their chest or that pit in their stomach where, oh fuck, it all comes down to, can I beat a 16? And it's in a skill I don't really have. And what the whole AI thing, the AI thing with RPGs coming out, that third person, it's no different than a video game. It's no like if we can completely digitize Baldur's Gate, make it to where there's a GM operating the game. They say we take Baldur's Gate, suck it out. It's in a vacuum now.
Yeah.
If we could take that and have it to where a person's controlling everything in that game, down from, so basically, in a perfect world, say we had this digital format, right, where anyone could just join in on a map or have a sec party, whatever you want, and the game master can go in and populate a random gen map with shit inside of it. It still plays in third person, because when you think about it, we're all a table, we're all in third person when you really think about it. It has the chance still, it has the turn order to it, but it's all visually appealing. It's all quick to set up and you're ready to go, and it's one of those things where what happens in the future, this AI third person or a computer game, it's the chance that makes these games what they are. As long as there's that chance, that whimsy, the what if in an RPG game, that's all we really need. Right now, it's a matter of who can adapt or die. It's 2025, give it 10 years. I guarantee it'd be a small percentile playing old-fashioned paper games. You know what I mean? Like if Foundry or Roll20 or something like that can actually go in and make a proper game portal for us to play in, where everyone can customize their tiefling, have nipple rings, whatever you want.
Yeah.
They go in and have this virtual tabletop system where you can go in and populate a random gen map or a random village map, and it streamlines everything. And then there's still the chance being performed via computer program. It's going to streamline the entire experience. It's going to make everything more adaptable. Now you have people who want to play a video game, but they don't want. I don't make a character. I don't want to do paperwork. I don't want to deal with, people. They can more or less play Baldur's Gate, but for real. And if their character dies, they fucking die. It'd be like hardcore WoW, but like with more shit into it. Where, well, your character died in so and so session at this time on this date at this random gen map Q code here, and you died. So you make a new character. Like that's what I see the future being. And it's one of those things where it just depends on who's going to cast literally the first die in that preparation. And I don't know what y'all think about it, or who's going to be the one who makes that jump. But didn't D&D try? I swear to God, D&D tried. They tried to make a virtual Foundry tabletop, didn't they? Or
they already, yeah. They're working on it.
So like, at that point, like, I swear to God, it was out. Was it not out? I remember it was like a breeze in the wind, no fanfare, no
it was,
trumpets.
and then it was cancelled.
Yeah.
Now, but their last big meeting or whatever, they were talking about going digital again. So
again,
but what caused the failure? Like, what caused them to stumble and flop at the finish line? Because they could have seized the entire game world by having a peak digital game system.
It was a bit of a combination of a little bit of the OGL, like lashback that was still kind of there, but it's sort of the tail end. And also just the reality of anyone who wanted to use a VTT was already financially invested into whatever service they were already using. It's
Foundry.
just a matter. exactly Foundry or about half dozen other ones. And the reality is, people just weren't willing to make the transfer over when they already have massive libraries already built up on other services. It's the same thing as the video game argument with Steam and PlayStation and Nintendo. People are just invested into these places, and so the stickiness of them is making the prospect of going to another platform unattainable.
And it wouldn't run on shitty old machines either. It was too
True.
intensive. I think they just tried to do too much. Someone mentioned the game Wildermyth earlier.
Mhm.
That's fantastic. And it's made to look like papercraft, like cutout standees and so on, but it's still a massively engaging game. I think they should have just gone with static figures, static terrain, just make it 3D, and concentrated everything on automating all the game processes and everything. And then I think they could have had a bit of a winner there if they could get it to run in a browser window.
They
But
way overpromised and way under-delivered on a lot of things. Like they were, Wizards of the Coast was basically coming out and promising that you were going to be able to model your character the way you view them with your art into the game, and run your miniature was going to be like your little Diablo character. And the amount of power and programming and the system requirements that would have been necessary would have been absolutely insane and very comical for a game that has always been played with,
The thing is, there are other similar ways to play in like 3D and so on. I forget the names of the programs right now. With tiny handfuls of devs and nowhere near the budget that Wizards had, and they're much better than what they came out with. So,
So what was it like? Just greed ruined it. Like, what? Because they have Baldur's Gate. It's in their IP. Like, why the hell don't they just go? Well, take this, open it up, make a few subsystems.
I'm going to say what Ironcaster's going to say, because anything that's designed and built by a committee and corporate is going to be shitty.
Also, the fact is they were trying. This is where, again, as I kind of mentioned earlier, it has to do with the shareholder thing. Because it's a publicly traded company, they have to keep making these big announcements to try to, keep the stock price up. The number always has to go up, and so on. Which is why, like Grim said, they're probably going to push to try it again because, well, AI is the big buzzword now. That anything we can say with that to keep the shareholders interested, and it is even like your individual shareholders. It's ultimately these hedge funds that have hundreds of thousands of shares and millions of dollars worth of it invested in a single company. Any one of them who might have at most 5% of the company, that's the people they care about most.
Yeah,
it's true.
I think also Baldur's Gate may have been part of the problem because it was such a huge success, and because they brought in so many people from the computer games world, and because so many of the high ups don't really seem to understand what role-playing games are. I think they kept thinking and trying to chase the idea that this would basically be a freeform version of Baldur's Gate, which it was never, ever, ever going to be. So different ideas about what they were doing was part of the problem.
I'm disappointed we never did see anyone take the Baldur's Gate engine and go and recreate classic adventures. I was waiting for the day that someone was going to make the Ravenloft mod to just recreate I6.
Yeah, the old Neverwinter single player thing. That was probably the closest they've ever got to something like this. That was 3rd edition days,
and people are still playing it.
It's a great game.
And you could customize the maps, you could automate everything. The tools were a bit janky, but I understood them, so they can't have been that difficult. I do not have a programming brain. I was able to run a couple of adventure things through that.
Well, hell, people are
over LAN.
People are still making stuff for RPG Maker. I mean, I got a friend who's hacking away on it right now, building an RPG, and I'm playtesting it as he goes. I mean, he's not going to sell it or anything. It's just for us to enjoy, but still, it's not bad. But people want these kind of experiences, And, you know, I'm just not sure what the deal is. It's like, I think a lot of our stuff is
with Wizards too. I mean, they've allowed the inmates to run the asylum too much.
Well, there's a terminal. There's a terminal infection of greed. Like the main disease that all these games suffer from is just pure corporate greed, and it's strangling the games and it's strangling creativity.
It's not just that. They also hire in these people who view the corporate project not as a vehicle to make shareholders money, which is what it is when you work for a public corporation. They see it as a vehicle to push their own political priors on everybody and end up pissing off, no matter who it is, they end up pissing off anywhere from 60 to 75% of the customer base every time they open their mouth. And most of the, because even if you might have 25% that vehemently agree with them, and 25% who they just made sure will never ever buy anything that they ever touch again as long as they work for the company. And then you got 50% in the middle who are like, damn it, I just want to play my game. Shut up and make my game. Sir, this is a Wendy's.
Franner says definitely teaching my kids. This is definitely teaching my kids the goodness that is paper and dice rolling for a game. Yes, but which game? And what will it look like by the time they're old enough to enjoy it? It's my thing. You want a wheelchair in my dungeon crawl and skill issue on what's yeah, definitely.
Well, yeah, I don't understand how you can have all of the money and the staff and you somehow fumble the fucking bag like this. Like to me, it's nearly comical how they can have Baldur's Gate, you can say what you want about WotC, but it's a highly successful game. And they don't think, maybe we should just use that engine and make a new game. Like, are they completely brain dead? Like, what's the fucking issue? Like, it gets frustrating when you hear these people just constantly drop the fucking bag over and over.
The problem though is I don't think they actually own the engine. In fact, the company that did do Baldur's Gate 3, WotC did try to get them to go and make another game for them, but they told them to go fuck off, and they went off and started making their own. Like, they're off doing probably what the others, Divinity 3 probably.
Yeah,
they would rather go do their own title than
deal with
try to follow up Baldur's Gate 3 with more of the same.
Well, yeah, I mean, they even said that all the people that they started with whenever they started working on the Baldur's Gate game were not there by the time they finished at WotC. So, I mean, there was a definite shift in corporate, but it didn't affect the team, thankfully. And I don't know, maybe that problem is starting to get, fixed because we're starting to see the pendulum shifting in the other direction now as games are losing money and people are probably starting to see now that, if we hitch our wagon to BlackRock or whoever else these, financial powerhouses are, that we're going to lose a ton of money on this, even if we do get our game funded. And a great example, and this is a segue, by the way, because I promised Chinatsky we would do this. And a good example of that is Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. Yes, I have not finished grinding that goddamn axe yet, because I still hate that fucking game.
Drink. Drink. Getting added to the drinking game.
Hey, I bought it 6 years ago and played it for 1 hour before I refunded it, okay?
And we've heard about it ever since.
Goddamn right you did, and you're going to keep hearing about it because fuck that game.
And we're going to keep
tired, Grandpa.
Well, son, see, there was a game called Bloodlines, and it was a masterpiece, and then some fuckheads decided to bring out Bloodlines 2, but it was a total piece of shit, and they called it an RPG. But it wasn't an RPG because none of your choices mattered. Nothing you do mattered. You got some different endings based on some bullshit you did in there, but otherwise it was a flying and walking simulator with intermittent combat in between sections, which was janky as shit, by the way. But Shinotsky, what were you going to say about it?
They did an announcement. $37 million were lost. They did a $37 million write-off.
Jesus, it was that much. And as I did some research before the show started, The Chinese room currently employs 55 developers as of July 2025 following layoffs, right? Hardsuit Labs, which was the original company that was making the game, has approximately 57 to 70. So for some reason, Hardsuit Labs had a bigger group of people, but couldn't finish the shit in 6 years for some reason, which I'm like,
some reason.
Well, I mean, it's like, I don't get it. It's like, why is game development time taking so goddamn long these days? I mean, I understand that they want it to be good and all this stuff, but I mean, some of these bigger companies are employing like hundreds and hundreds of employees. I mean, it's like, look at all the people who worked on Dragon Age Veilguard, and it still ended up being a complete piece of shit.
Well, it's a combination of both scope and scale. Like,
yes,
you want to do bigger and better, bigger and bolder stuff. They have all this money in, and so there's just so much more interest in this idea built into it that they have to go and keep making it bigger than the last one. And with the size of these teams, you need to have middle managers for all these different departments that are going to go and figure out which day next week can we sit down to talk about when are we going to go ahead and have our meetings to talk about the projects we want to do in 3 months.
I mean, but yeah, Shanatsky and I we were talking about it before the show even started. And I said we should wait until the show is on so we could actually talk about this, because this is an axe I love to grind on how bad Bloodlines 2 really was, and how if they had called it anything but Bloodlines, it would have been great. I mean, they should have called it Vampire the Masquerade Nomad. I wouldn't have said a goddamn thing. I would have said, okay, that's fine.
It would have been great, but it definitely would. The game we got wouldn't have been color. It'd go, it's an okay game. There's some things like the music that are kind of nice, but for the most part, the problem with Bloodlines 2 is it's two games that don't really complement each other very well. Because if you're an action murder bloodhound, suddenly you're playing like this very slow pace, very linear like detective game. And if you're like a super cerebral story person, your vampire detective game is being interrupted with like a murder fest.
Yeah, and the combat system is jank as shit. I mean, let's not go into the whole thing about, like the 400-year-old fucking elder vampire who is getting his ass beaten by ghouls. Really? To put it in D&D terms, this would be like a level 20 barbarian facing down first level guardsman, maybe second. How long? Who do you think would win that fight, even if it was like 6-1?
It wouldn't be that bad if they said, okay, you're an elder, and people actually treat you like one.
Yeah, but they don't. They treat you like a bitch boy who has to go run around and do all their errands for them. You're a 400-year-old elder vampire? That's great. Can you go get my dry cleaning?
That sounds like treadmill stuff right there.
But it is. That's the kind of bullshit you gotta do. Yeah.
You literally do deliveries, and even worse, every single, like, when you've done one side quest, you've done them all.
Mm-hmm.
For a particular person. So the Tremere who has you do deliveries always has you do deliveries. The assassin always has you assassinating someone.
Well, I mean, there's all kinds of Star Wars games out there where it's like, you're a great and powerful Jedi master, and the universe is dependent on you going over to this planet and collecting 9 crystals and bringing them back to me.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's that.
That's you want to talk about World of Warcraft programming? I mean, I remember playing Conan and having Conan himself tell me that I needed to bring back like 10 crowns.
That is something that is one of the reasons why I kind of stopped being interested in World of Warcraft, because it was like every single world game, end game shattering event kept happening over and over and over. And even though you were more or less at the center of every single one of those events, and maybe even a chosen character for one of those events, everybody still treats you like you're, like third guy from the left. Come go do my shit for me because I'm more important than you.
I'd eat 5 tiger skins, bastard.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe we should start doing that for our role-playing games, too. I need you to go out and get me 5 turnips from this field over here where there's a lot of boars.
And then I drew out my sword.
Yep. I mean,
Sam, it sounds dumb, but I've actually done fetch quests for players, but usually I inject stuff into the fetch quests where things happen, but that's because they're low-level dudes. But that's a thing where it requires intelligent creation of the game passage.
Exactly.
Really, and it's why Modern WoW sucks massive dick, because everything's Modern WoW, everything's trivial. It's why Classic and Hardcore are so beloved, because nothing is trivialized. Everything matters.
Yes.
That's a whole other thing. That's just a lack of creativity, bad writing. Like how many games have awesome engines? Shit writing. Great graphics, shit writing.
Oh, awesome.
Yes.
They're Macaulay Culkin simulators. I was in that movie where I met Donald Trump down in the sequel in the hotel room. Dude, shut up and cook my fries.
I mean, it's like, it's kind of like, how many world-ending events can we have today? And that's the thing is, I don't think players of most TTRPGs are really in for that so much. They want to be the hero, but they don't want to go back to being bitch boy for everybody. But as we are talking about video games, we must remember one thing is true, and it is beloved. And I'm pretty sure. Okay, is there anybody on this panel who has not played Skyrim? Is there anybody? You have not played Skyrim?
No, I've played it. Nor have I ever had a desire to play Skyrim. I was never a fan of the Elder Scrolls. Didn't like Morrowind. It was never my thing. And why am I going to play Skyrim when I can play Fallout?
Okay, well, I mean, you said Fallout, so okay, I won't kick you off this panel immediately.
It's the same damn game.
It is, but it isn't. And here's the thing. There's a reason why Stealth Archer is so fucking popular playstyle in Skyrim. Because it works. Because it's OP. I mean, So I don't know. Maybe not necessarily everything is like all action and everything. Maybe people just want to have that overpowered sense of I get to be God and choose who dies.
That's wish fulfillment.
It is. It is. I mean, who hasn't played Stealth Archer? Look at Ironcaster. Okay, this guy played Stealth Archer. He did.
Oh, princess! I have my bow out.
Exactly.
What he calls it camping when it's a mod.
I mean, Once I left my character up by one shot of a dragon, yeah. I mean, there's a reason that play style is popular, is because it works. And it's the same thing with any game that you play now, any TTRPG. People will metagame. And I think the fact that we have metagame in our TTRPGs, well, the ones that can support a metagame, I mean...
Because it's all ultimately a game of numbers, and people inevitably trying to crunch it and find the most optimal builds.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it depends on your like in TTRPGs, metagaming is an absolute necessity. Like there are parts of metagaming, using the actual Greek word from which meta comes from, being a level above or beyond. Not the what's the acronym they use, like most effective tactics available or whatever, but the actual, where the term meta actually comes from is the Greek suffix, which means that it's a level above or a level beyond. So there's a certain level of meta play that is necessary in TTRPGs, such as all of us making the decisions for our characters to join the party. Even if there's some kind of argument that maybe my character wouldn't necessarily want to join this party, because we want to play the game, and everybody kind of agrees on a meta level to do that. And having an understanding of how the sausage is made, so to speak, with the way your spells work and that sort of thing.
Well, that's not really the kind of metagaming I'm talking about. The metagaming I'm talking about is like optimization. And when we talk about
the same coin, because you have to know how the sausage is made to act as your character in the world. You know how the sausage is made, and you can manipulate the meat.
Yeah, basically.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, it's like I don't really know that we've resolved anything or not. We definitely brought up some questions. And hey, JP, good to see you, buddy.
I mean, my question is will meta games can you meta in a virtual D&D-esque game where, I mean, like, say you're in one of these futuristic Baldur's Gate-esque virtual tabletops, and all the NPCs, they're constantly randomized on stat and HP and how strong they are. Is that against the meta? Can that fight against meta if you have, certain NPCs hit harder than other ones and have more HP, but they're the exact same NPC? Is that combating the meta? Like, what are ways to combat meta?
Well, I mean, you've got guys who are out there who've like memorized all the goddamn monster manuals, so they know exactly what they're dealing with. However, their characters shouldn't know if it's the first time they've run into a rust monster what the damn thing does. But to answer this choice, what do you guys think of players that make not OP choices in character creation or progression, like for silly roleplay reasons that are not the best mechanic choice?
They get better gear.
I mean, yeah, they either get better gear or they learn how to work with themselves. I've seen players who have played characters that were basically like at death's door starting out, who actually managed to succeed and start scoring levels and do well. And my best example for that is I can't remember the name of the game right now, but it has it's not the Goodman Games thing but it also has a 0 level character funnel type adventure. It's the same guys who did like the Argosia game or whatever, but Privateer Press, yeah, I think. But anyway, the point is the characters had like lots of 0 level characters who were basically just kind of like there to get killed until they got whittled down to a couple of choice characters they wanted to proceed with. And shockingly, they actually managed to get through the entire adventure without getting a single 0 level character killed. It was shocking, but they did.
I think it's just a matter of anyone who can have an interesting character is going to get a bit more attention. They're going to they're going to get a little bit better gear. They're going to be rewarded for actually being interesting and not a lull so random sort of thing. Like this, if it's someone who's taking the game seriously, then
I set the orphanage on fire.
The best original character in the history of Dungeons and Dragons as an IP is a result of a mage with a low HP roll and a 3 Constitution.
Raistlin?
That's Raistlin. Raistlin is a result of a weak character because they played out the characters when they were writing the books. That was one of the ways they helped flesh out the characters as they ran them at their own table. And Raistlin was a he was the eponymous 1 HP magic user with a terrible constitution. He was the cat can kill my wizard.
Yep.
And the thing is that we're human beings and characters in general are defined by not defined by what they can do, they're defined by what they overcome. And if you don't have to overcome anything, your character's just boring.
Yep.
You're a Mary Sue at that point, or Gary
Yes.
Sue, because
you are Rey Skywalker.
Rey Skywalker, the character who had absolutely no character progression whatsoever over 3 movies, including the fact that as a child, she wore the exact same hairstyle and clothing that she still had in adult life.
yeah,
Well,
that's not character development.
The Lord of the Rings is about Frodo and Sam. It's not about Gandalf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyway,
remember,
guys,
we're coming up on a decade for those movies to actually be considered classics and beloved.
they are beloved classics in my opinion. But anyway, shall we go ahead and end today, guys? Because I think we've said a lot. I don't know necessarily that that we got anything resolved or anything, but we got some ideas kicking around. We got some brain for thought there. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, it's one of those things where time's going to resolve this more than we ever can, unless we somehow all hit a fucking mega scratcher and get millions of dollars, that's out of our hands. Unless we can sell ourselves to a corporation that's not completely plugged full of greed. But
unless Grimm can suddenly pull this wonderful idea out of his ass and like bring it to fruition with or without my help.
I'm gonna tell everybody right here. I've got a couple of projects working, and if by some strange reason Hasbro walks up to my door with a briefcase full of cash, my project will become how quickly can I open said briefcase?
Awesome.
It is for sale. It's all for sale. It's done for money.
Yes. Well, if it makes you feel any better, guys, you are all responsible for why the Acolyte failed.
I'm
white men.
No, just I mean, in general, is the fans are the reason, and YouTubers and stuff were the reason that it all failed, And I just have one thing to say about this.
There's a channel on YouTube. It's the what is it? The Soviet Diaries, I think is what it's called.
Oh God.
The guy's great. It's a former Ukrainian Soviet who lives in Michigan now. And he goes over all these different things about life in the USSR. His channel kind of blew up a little bit when the Chernobyl series came out, because he actually had shoes that one of his childhood memories is how or not necessarily childhood memories, one of his young life memories is he actually had a brand new pair of shoes that he had gotten that had to be confiscated by the government because they set off the rad detector on the train from Chernobyl. But there's a line that I always laugh at, because he was talking about how he has a super, because of the thick accent and English is a second language type thing, he's got this super kind of like just very deadpan, monotone type way he delivers things. And he's talking about people would tell you that communism is great, because if you want apartment, you get apartment. If you want job, you get job. If you don't want job, you go to Siberia because you parasite of society. I love the way he delivers you go to Siberia for parasite of society. That's exactly what that clip right there did. Where's the protesters? Parasite of society. Off to the gulag. Go away.
Straight to
All right, guys. Well, first, I'm losing my voice. Second, I want to get back to some Diablo 4 because I want to play a real RPG. No, it's not a real RPG. I'm just kidding.
Isometric dungeon crawler.
Isometric dungeon crawler. Yes, it is. It is. It's also fucking addictive. I need some more endorphin hits. So,
I've got 5 minutes left in LSU versus Oklahoma, 6 minutes left in Vanderbilt versus Tennessee. And then
it's still 10-10 in it.
No, LSU is up 13-10. We are beating the panty kicker.
Oh, nice. And on a happy note, y'all take care, and I'm gonna try to run tomorrow. I think, unless anything untoward happens tomorrow, but I'm gonna try to run tomorrow. Okay. So, awesome. Yes, I know. Grimm is probably just celebrating in his chair over there. And I just want to remind everybody one thing about Grimm.
Oh, look at that over there.
What is it, darling?
I believe they're lesbians. Well, we're British, you see, and where we're from, lesbians don't exist.
Neither does toothpaste.
Or sunshine.
Or good food.
Or sobriety. Yeah.
I haven't shown that clip in so long. I had to.
Oh, look, a cunt.
Yes. I had that on clip. I played that one at Grimm once, and he flipped me off for it. So. Deservedly.
See, that's why
go back to your turkey and leave me alone.
We didn't even have turkey this year, man. We had steak and potato, and it was just me and my mom. That was it. But anyway, y'all take care out there in YouTube land. Hopefully we'll see you tomorrow, and if not, when we're gonna see you on Tuesday for sure, because I got something I know Ironcaster is gonna jizz himself over when he sees them. So.
And also, we need to talk about some Tojima wants to be a Kamen Rider.
We do, now that I've actually been watching it. So, but I have to finish watching second season of Campfire Cooking with My Absurd Skill, because second season dropped, and I'm just really, that's my show, dude. I mean, it's cooking, it's monsters, it's Dungeons and Dragons type stuff. It's cooking monsters. It's like, yeah, I want to see this show.
What, Dungeon Meshy?
Dungeon Meshi is one of my favorites too. I love Dungeon Meshi. But Campfire Cooking in Another World with My Absurd Skill came out first.
Okay. I didn't hear the thing at first, yeah.
Yeah, that show's great. That show's fucking great. You should watch that if you haven't seen it. But anyway, y'all take care, everybody out there, and we will see ya later. Bye. Y'all say bye. Y'all say bye.
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 Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe, please. I need more.
On behalf of the staff of the Independent California Motel, I wish you all sweet dreams.